Todd Elvig here, STSPN. We're here with Nick Bender, Glacier Peak Grizzlies. So this is a new era for you. Starting off a little bit of fresh, quarterback and a few other positions, just like everybody does, but you've had the same starter for 4 years. Is the quarterback controversy settled, or are you still looking?
It's always going to be a controversy, right? That's the whole premise. Our job as head coaches and coaches in general is always find your replacement. So right now we still got about 4 guys competing for it. Every day it changes, which is what I like. But so far the kids are answering the call pretty well.
Now everybody wants to know, when you're looking at these 4 quarterbacks, do they have some features that Aiden had? I mean, do they have? Can they scramble? Can they get the pass out there? Are they pretty accurate? How are they looking? Still a little young, or?
I think it just depends on the kid, right? Honestly, each of them kind of has their own skill set. You know, Aiden was just a great quarterback, and we were spoiled for 4 years. Each quarterback kind of brings their own thing to the table. Sometimes it's intelligence, sometimes it's accuracy, sometimes it's just athletic ability. But all of them have little bits of it, and I think that's the same with all quarterbacks out there.
Now, are you a quarterback by committee, or are you we grab somebody and we're going to just kind of stick with him until he either passes the grade or falls on his face?
It just depends on what time of year it is. Honestly, you know, I think at the beginning of the year, it's let's figure out what we got. And then once you get into league play, you kind of have to start making a decision, and this is how we're going to go with it. And so we'll see what happens within the last week of practice before the first game to see if anyone steps up and takes the reins. But there's a good chance game 1 we're going to play with multiple guys.
Now, we heard a little tidbit yesterday from Tom Try. He said something about Anacortes maybe not having a team this year, and 23 of those guys heading over to Mount Vernon. That makes them instantly better, as he was saying, or have you heard something that's similar?
I have heard something similar. I want kids to be able to play football, and if that's what's best for them, that's what's best for them.
Okay. So in the league, obviously, Lake Stevens is probably the team to beat. But who else do you see as one of your larger games, one of your extra preparation? You know, a tough team, what tough game you see coming up?
You know, I think, you know, the thing about Wesco 4A is every week you don't know what's going to happen. You know, where in 3A we pretty much knew it was going to come down to a few games. That's pretty much it. Wesco 4A, it changes so much year by year, week by week. You really have to prepare for all of them. But I think another top runner that you have to put up there would probably be Monroe.
Now, we know that over at Monroe was one of the ones that several of the players over there at Lake Stevens kind of had a little kind of extra smirk when they talked about Monroe. Looking at Jackson now, Jackson got a new head coach. They also picked up Kai Smalley from Snohomish. Now, is that going to cause you to maybe play them a little bit different, knowing that he's bringing some of that offense or that defensive knowledge that he's brought over from Snohomish?
I think, you know, there's really no secrets in football. I mean, everyone's doing similar, if not the exact same thing as everybody else. We're going to play our game and put our kids in the best position possible. In high school, it really comes down to matchups more than scheme. As much as we as coaches like to think that we're the mad scientists and geniuses on everything, it really comes down to the kids on the field. What can they handle? Sometimes is my athlete better than you? One coach I know in the South refers to it as matchup DNA, right? Sometimes DNA in one kid's just better than the other one, and so you just kind of you keep feeding them the ball.
A little bit better breeding. Yeah, that's right. So we've also got some new coaches and new players. Archbishop Murphy's got new head coach. There's a lot of exciting things happening in the league. Does it seem this year that things are a little bit more questionable than in years past? Does it seem like that there's possible some questions that haven't really been answered during the off season, so you know where you're going to go? I mean, with all the different coaches changes, the kids that have moved on, just all these variables, is it going to take week 1 to kind of start to sort some of that out?
I think it does every year, right? There's parity in our league, and with so many good kids graduating and moving on from different schools, I think we're all in that boat, right? We all have preconceived notions, but week 1 confirms and or corrects our notions, and then we just kind of keep going from there. And then the same thing is true. A team week 1 is not the same team week 9. Something's changed, whether it be scheme, injuries, whatever it is, something has changed. And so we as coaches, that's where we do all that film study. That's where we prepare for all that stuff, and so that we can make those adjustments as well.
Now, you had indicated me a while back that from early, like I think it was, early spring or late spring, even before the summer, that you saw some potential and some guys coming up in your line. You seen a little bit of parity there, a little bit of gelling, or you see your line being able to do a decent job this year.
Yeah, I think so. I was talking to somebody else. The thing that Glacier Peak's always prided itself on is very intelligent hard workers, and that is the epitome of what the offensive line is. And so with that, we have a lot of guys to replace. Obviously, losing Fafita to WSU, which I hear he's doing awesome, is great for him, but it's going to take us a while to figure some things out. But we have enough of those guys now. We're just a matter of plug and play and figure out what suits them best, whether it be pass blocking, run blocking, and put them in a position for success.
Now, offensive line, that's always a tough sell, isn't it?
It can be, but I think with as many linemen as we have as coaches, or former linemen as we have as coaches, and the fact that we treat them as the kings that they are, right? Because it's all about the line. It all starts with and ends with them, and so it's not as hard to sell as you would think. Especially with today, it's no longer just line up and 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards. We actually have them out playing in space, right? We have skill athletes, and we have what we refer to as big skill athletes, because they're just as athletic as the rest. The misnomer of the large, slow, cumbersome lineman is pretty much eradicated from football today.
Well, that's great. We sure appreciate you talking to us. We're going to come down and get a little bit of footage from you later and be able to take a look at some of the kids and see how they're doing. We're really anxious to get your first game, which is going to be Snohomish. We've got one of your former linemen that's going to be doing color, Nolan Dale. Do you remember that guy?
Oh yeah, I remember Pork Chop.
That's right. No, and we've talked to some other coaches. They give you great props in what you've got going on here. So it was great talking to you.
All right, thank you. Go Grizz.
Absolutely.